Okay, guys, I want to talk about do we or do we not own our video games, our consoles, our PCs, that kind of stuff, right? There's been a lot of backlash on the internet lately. There's been a lot of people looking into things too, and that because of Sony, right? Sony is going with an all digital format from the PS6 and on. And so, what PlayStation owners are doing is they're going, okay, I'm not, after the PS5, I'm done. I'm not going to be on the internet anymore, that kind of stuff, right? So, what I want to do here is a reality check, okay? Because I found out something here I don't think anybody is talking about, okay? So, do we own our stuff? Yes or no? Okay. So what I found out when you go onto your console, and it's the same problem with the PC, by the way, understand that DRM is not about digital rights management like people think. DRM is just, it affects both physical and digital. And I've been saying this for years, right? People don't listen, right? Okay. Now, ever since this whole debacle with Sony going on, with all going digital on the PS6, PS5 owners are going, okay, this is the last PlayStation I own. And they're going, okay, I'm going to, stop going online with my PlayStation, things like that. So I dug deep into this, all the way down the rabbit hole. And this is the information I found out by looking at my Xbox, okay? We all know you don't own your PC, right? From Windows 11 on, you don't own your PC. We all know that, okay? So, PC owners, this includes you too, okay? PC gamers, all right? So, just because you PC game, you're not safe. It's not about physical, it's not about digital, it's not about PC gaming. It's about the company's policies, which is DRM. Okay, so DRM is the enemy, right? It's not physical, it's not digital, it's not PC, it's not console, it's DRM, period. Okay? This affects everything physically and it affects your console and your PC. If you look under the applications, okay, I noticed this with Xbox, right? Okay. So I'm going to get into it with the Series S as an example, okay? And this will be about PlayStation. This will be with PC. I guarantee you, okay? I guarantee you this, okay? I had a game that didn't work. I bumped across, right? And that game is Street Fighter 6. And what's interesting is that when I went into the file info on the game, it has update, and right beside the update, it has a date and a time. That means that that date and that time is when that license expires, and then you got to go back on the internet to reconnect with the internet to go, oh, okay, we're going to renew that license because you bought that game. Now, understand, I'm not talking about Game Pass, I'm not talking about a streaming service, I'm talking about games I bought. Okay? So I went through my library of games. I got a lot of games. I haven't done them all, but I've done quite a few. Okay, you guys know since the 11th I've been without the internet, right? Okay, this is what I've been doing. Okay, so in order to do things on Xbox, you need to mark it as your home console. It's the same thing with the PlayStation. Okay, all right. And then you need to make a save file, and it's the same thing with the PlayStation. All right. Now, once you do that, you should be good. Okay. But here's the thing, if you go to file information, and it's different from console to console and PC, okay? I'm just talking about the games first, and then we're going to get into the hardware, okay? So when you go into the file information where it says update, it should say NA or have a time and date stamp. If it has a time and date stamp, at that time, at that date, that license expires. In order to renew it, you got to go back online to renew it all over again. Yeah, you heard me right. That's with the software. So that's how that works. Doesn't matter if it's a physical game, doesn't matter if it's a digital game. They both have that time and date stamp. Both of them. Okay? Now that's the software in a nutshell. I'm doing the shortest version I can of this, okay, to explain it to you what's really going on. It's DRM. So I decided, okay, I'm going to look at my console and see the last update to it, the time and date. And I checked it, and it was the 8th of this month, of August, right? Okay. So that means a year from now, if I'm right about this theory, I am right so far with the software. Now I have a theory, maybe it's the same thing with the hardware, okay? So what I've gone and done is, like I said, starting on the 11th of this month of August 2026, right? I took myself completely offline, right? Okay. August 8th was the last update that my console did. Now, if my theory holds true, that means August 9th, August 8th, the time and date stamp of that, the same thing's going to happen with the hardware, okay? Which means that we are going to have to do annual check-ins with the hardware and some software. Now, that's a theory I have with the hardware. But I have confirmed it with the software. Because with Street Fighter 6, my game wouldn't work. I looked at the file info, I looked at the update, and the time and date stamp was expired. But it didn't say expired, it just said the, update, and then it gave the date, and then it gave the time beside it, okay? And I noticed it's overdue. So then I go online to play the game, and the game plays just fine. And then I take my whole thing offline without being hooked up to the internet, and it played fine. That tells me that game is going to need to renew whenever that date and time is up, okay? Using that same philosophy, I'm now looking at the Xbox, and it has time and date stamp of the last update, okay? So I won't know with Xbox itself until time goes on with no internet, right? And I'm doing this with no internet. I'm not putting it in offline mode. I mean, literally, I have no Ethernet cable and no Wi-Fi hooked up to it, okay? And so this is what I found so far, all right? So these are my findings now, okay? The internet is just lit with the PS5 stuff going into the PS6, right? People are delusional if they think that, oh, I got physical, I'm fine. No, you don't. You still got that time and date stamp, plus you have to hook up to the internet to actually get the full version of the game, because you only got part of the game. You don't got the full version, okay? I can see I got to turn on a light here, so 1 second, guys, But these are the findings I found so far. It's disheartening. So what is my advice moving forward? My advice to everybody is this: don't buy anymore, period, from any of these companies, okay? That would be the smart thing to do, is not to buy right now. And what I would do is I would invest in a console like I have with the Sega Genesis, for example. I'm using the Genesis because it is a really good example of this, that has no internet whatsoever, okay? We know Xbox 360 has the rods problem. We know the PS and 3 has a CMOS problem, and so on. So we know that those consoles eventually will die, right? Okay. Now, the reason why I say cartridge is a great way to go and get a cartridge-based console is because there's no internet connection whatsoever. So there's no CMOS, right? The Xbox, the original Xbox, does have a timer in there, and if it leaks, if it hasn't been replaced in enough time and it leaks, it will destroy your whole motherboard on the original Xbox. So even the original Xbox is not safe. Everything has some sort of built-in flaw in it by design to destroy your console within a certain amount of time. Okay? And this is what I found out, kind of thing, right? Okay. So the only thing that is truly safe in the end is cartridge-based systems. Systems without needing an internet connection. Okay. I've got a Sega Genesis that was done in 1989, guys. Original hardware, everything. And it still works to this day flawlessly. I got games from 89 all the way through the 90s on it too as well, and they all work phenomenal. Okay? That's what I would suggest you do, is you get into retro gaming, but not with Xbox or PlayStation, but with a cartridge-based console. Okay? That's going to be your best bet. Okay? Now, a lot of people are going to say, well, this is why I emulate. You missed the whole point of what I said earlier about PC. It affects PC gaming too. Your PC needs to have a constant connection to the internet in order for it to work properly. Otherwise, when you remove it and that time and date stamp is on there on your PC, it will brick unless it has an internet connection to renew your license to your PC. And I'm not making this up. Like, literally. The PC has the same problem that the consoles have. And this is the reality check that everyone needs to come to realization of, is that they've taken away our rights of ownership. And the best thing to do, if this happens to you and you're going to lose a significant amount of money, take them to court. Literally, I am not joking. If enough gamers stop buying their products, like right now, we need to stop buying, okay? Stop buying the hardware, stop buying the software, okay? All right? Buy a retro console that requires no internet connection. But understand the CMOS problem with the PlayStation, and that's with all of them. Okay, and understand the problem with the Xbox. Okay, even the original Xbox has a problem, which is the battery leak, right, which will destroy the whole Xbox. Okay, and then with the 360, you got the rods, and then the Xbox One had to be online 24/7, and you get the idea. Okay, the only things that are truly safe is with cartridge-based consoles like the N64, the Super Nintendo, the Genesis, the Master System, the NES, and so on, all the way back to ColecoVision, Intellivision, and that kind of stuff, right? Okay, so if you want to know what software will work, look at the file info on your game. If it's got a time and date stamp, that's when that license expires, and then it has to renew by you hooking up to the internet with that license, okay? In terms of the hardware, well, only time will tell. I'll have to find out through my Xbox what happens that way. But we do know, based off of PCs, that after Windows 11 came out, we lost our rights to our PCs. So we don't own our PCs at all. Like none of us, okay? That's where we're at now. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about physical, it's not about digital, it's about DRM and our rights and what they've taken away from us through licenses, okay? My recommendation overall is take your stuff offline, and I mean no internet connection at all. Test it, okay, and go through all of your games, okay, and then see how long you can go without hooking up the console to the internet or the games without the internet, and see what happens. Now, if you got an extensive library, which most people do, that's why they have backlogs, that's going to take a long time to do, right? And I don't see a lot of people having that kind of patience with that. But that's what you're going to have to do. And then you're going to have to leave it offline with no internet connection, no Wi-Fi, no ether cable, okay? That's what I mean by that. In order to test the hardware to see if it's going to need an update or not, okay? Then you'll know where you truly stand with all of this. I know 100% I own my Genesis because it doesn't hook up to the internet, okay? It's a cartridge-based console, and that's what I recommend you do moving forward. Because PC gamers, sorry, but it does affect you too. The software affects you, and the hardware affects you. Because the moment you signed up with Windows 11, you lost your PC. They own it, okay? So this is a massive problem universally, okay? And these are my findings so far as of this date. So I found Street Fighter 6 wouldn't work because the time and date had to be renewed. When I hooked it up to the internet, it got renewed and I could play the game, okay? I took it off with no internet connection and it plays perfectly fine. But there's a new time and date stamp to that game. So based off of that, okay, if it has an NA beside it, you don't have to worry about it. But if it does have a time and date stamp, after that time and date, that's when you have to renew the license again. And you do it automatically by hooking up to the internet, okay? It happens automatically. But here's the problem. If I'm right about the hardware being like that, then that means our hardware is technically bricked after that date, okay? Hopefully I'm wrong about that. We'll see. But with the software, I am right about it. Because that's why Street Fighter 6 wouldn't work for me, okay? So that's it. Those are my findings so far. And with the hardware, I won't know until a year from now, right? Okay. And then we'll know, okay? But I imagine the internet will probably already figure this stuff out before I get into a year with Xbox, right? But that's where we're at, guys. So the best thing that you can do is don't buy anymore from these companies, okay? And invest in a cartridge system, something that doesn't need the internet and doesn't have a CMOS problem or a similar problem like it, like rods and stuff like that, right? Okay. All the Xbox consoles have problems and all the PlayStation consoles have problems because they all have that internal clock, and that's what's happening with the software, okay? The internal clock. And taking that philosophy, I'm curious is that going to be the problem with the hardware? Because we know PCs need to be hooked up to the internet or it's toast. We know Xbox One 24/7, okay, and so on, okay? So this is where we're at now, okay? These are my findings that I have found after doing a lot of research and that kind of stuff and doing my own testing and that too, and finding games like, by looking at the file info and going, okay, when did this, oh yeah, this one's up, let's check it out. That's what I found out, okay? Now, in terms of the hardware, I won't know until my license is expired on the hardware, right? When I did Street Fighter 6 and I went on the I plugged in the Ether cable, right, and I went and just played it with the Ethernet cable plugged in. It had no problems playing, and then I unplugged the Ethernet cable, and it played perfectly fine, okay, because it needed that check-in, okay. So my next check-in, that's when I'll have to do it again for Street Fighter 6. And that's my concern with the console, because we know when it comes to the PC, you have to be online with the PC. You don't have a choice, right? And using that philosophy there, then I would imagine the console is going to be the same thing, right? So I have a funny feeling that we're going to have to do annual check-ins at the very least, right? With the hardware and some software, right? And with software, even more frequently. Now, some of these software are doing shenanigans by data collecting your personal information and all sorts of stuff. Good news is with Microsoft is that it gives you a warning about this. This one doesn't even have a website, okay? And I found that with 16-bit soccer. That's what we need to be concerned about, and that's what we need to be careful of. How much data are we sharing with these companies? What are they doing? When they get onto your console, which is when you play that application, that game, that's when they got you, okay? And then they have full access to your whole system. And I'm not just talking friends lists and spying on them too. I'm talking about deep stuff like, everything about your console, okay? Which means everything about you. Your location, your phone number, everything. And I mean the real one. A lot of people will say I use VPN and stuff like that. Doesn't matter. They will find your real IP address. They will find your real physical address. They will know everything about you. All this ties into the New World Order, which is biblical, okay? And that's the direction that we're going in, is the return of Jesus Christ. So everything is coming together like that for the beast system, so that he'll have complete dominion over the earth by forcing everyone to bend a knee to him if they want food, okay? And that's what's happening here. Like, believe it or not, this is actually about the Bible, because the Bible says the Antichrist will cause everyone to bend a knee if they want to buy and sell on the internet, if they want to buy and sell, period, okay? So if you want food and that sort of thing, yeah, you're going to bend to the beast system, which is the Antichrist. And a lot of people are going to do that. That's why this is in place, is to oppress and suppress people so that they can eventually move in the beast system. Well, that's what this is the beast system, so that the Antichrist will rule over the beast system and enslave everybody that's in the beast system. See, this is why it's important to have discernment and critical analytical thinking and remove the delusions from your life by praying to God and Jesus for these gifts, okay? So yeah, this is biblical in the end, right? Because this is how the Antichrist has power over people, because everything will be hooked up to the internet, And the only way you'll be able to have access to anything is the internet, literally. So it's even part of a more major problem, which is a spiritual problem, right? And that is, in the end, those that bow down to the beast. That's everything I found out so far. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. God bless, and we'll see you in the next video. Share your thoughts down below, what you think is going on. Thank you very much for your time.